So today I want to talk about the 5 biggest risks that women are taking by ignoring bladder weakness. Now, let's caveat that first of all, or not caveat it, let's explain that first of all, because I'm not just talking about your bladder here. I'm not just talking about those times where you have to dash to the toilet or those times where you get urinary leakage, whether that's when you sneeze, cough, laugh, jump, run. I'm talking about any symptoms at all that you're experiencing in your pelvic floor, whether that's just a feeling, I say just, but a feeling of heaviness, of dragging, of bulging. Maybe there is persistent back pain that no matter what type of therapy you try, doesn't go away. So yes, bladder weakness is the phrase that many women will search for because they get those urinary symptoms, but I am talking about the whole realm of symptoms, sensations, experiences that you can get within your pelvic floor, and the 5 biggest risks that women are risking by ignoring what's going on in their body. First of all, let's look at 5 reasons why women maybe choose to ignore this. And the first is they don't want to bother their doctor because it doesn't seem that important. And particularly at the time when I'm sort of recording this, it's lockdown due to COVID-19. The NHS is under incredible pressure, but doctors are still there to support us. And if there's something that's affecting the way we live, the way we move, then there is medical help there to support you. So why else are women not seeking help for this? They may accept it as just being the way things are. It happens to most women. It's just one of those things. And yes, it is really, really common, but that does not mean that it's something you have to put up with at all. Perhaps they're too embarrassed to raise it. Say you think, okay, well, I'm going to go to my doctor about it, but I don't know what to say. I don't want to talk about what's going on. Am I going to have to refer to things like my vagina, my genital parts? What is that going to involve with the doctor? So are these things actually putting you off if this is something that's relevant for you? Maybe some women just don't know that practical help is available. After all, the media just presents women with solutions such as incontinence pads, discreet pants, and helpful phrases saying that a little bit of wee isn't going to stop you from doing what you want. It normalizes these experiences, and like I say, they are very, very common, but that doesn't mean we have to put up with them, and there are big risks to our health in both the short and the long time if we continue ignoring these things from going on. So maybe women just don't know who to ask. They're worried about approaching their doctor. They don't know whether they need a doctor or a nurse. They don't know if there are any private people that they could seek help from. And what do they say when they get there? And certainly in feedback from women that I got through my social media pages, My Optimum Health on Instagram and Facebook, the majority of women were saying that they had tried to get help from their doctor, but had just been told that it's just one of those things, particularly after having a baby, or as they were going through the transition towards menopause, or they were just fobbed off in some way. They felt belittled, they didn't feel listened to, and that put them off seeking further help. But I still maintain there is a big risk or 5 big risks in not getting help and support for any symptoms that you're experiencing within your pelvis. And please hop over and check out my other blog and video recording, 7 signs that your pelvic floor has got a problem if you're not sure if what you're experiencing is something that requires further help or not. So let's talk about the risks then. 5 big risks of not getting these symptoms and sensations within your pelvis sorted out, or at least speaking to somebody about them. The first one is things are going to get worse. If we don't seek that help, if we don't get that support, things are not going to get better on their own. This is not something that sorts itself out. Often it's within the pelvic floor. It's not just about weakness though. A pelvic floor that is holding too much tension, that is holding on too much of the time, can present very similar and even the same kind of symptoms as a pelvic floor that needs strengthening. So it's not just about weakness. And so potentially just doing pelvic floor squeezes of one kind may not address the problem for you. This is where seeing a female health physio is really useful, if not imperative, in supporting you on your journey. And maybe whereas the things you're experiencing, the changes that you've noticed in your pelvic area, in your genital area, are relatively minor, you're able to explain them away. At what point are they going to be important enough to do something about them? So the biggest risk is they are not going to get better on their own. They need your support. And yes, it is about the pelvic floor, but it's about managing the pressure above and down into that pelvic floor. And it's about a lot of other factors within your life as well that I'll come on to talk about in a few minutes. The second biggest risk is that women lose confidence. And that sounds quite benign, really, but this is the major thing that I've noticed in all the women that I've worked with over the years who have any form of core and pelvic floor dysfunction, is that it steals away their identity, their willingness to take on the world, to be the woman that they want to be. And that's massive. If you can't fulfill the role that you want to, you can't chase after the dreams that you have for your life, then who does that leave you as being? I've worked with women after having children that say that they felt so sad that they couldn't be the mother that they'd wanted to be, or suddenly felt like they weren't going to be able to be the mum that they wanted to be for their children. And similarly, women going through that menopausal transition saying they didn't feel like a proper woman anymore. They felt really denigrated. This has a big impact on how we show up in our day-to-day lives and in the world around us as well. The third major risk is that you're going to feel uncomfortable. Now, that may be a feeling of self-consciousness. It may be physical sensations of discomfort or even pain. And again, that's really going to impact on what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, on what you want to wear on a day-to-day basis, on where you want to go, and the things that you want to do within your life. So these are major risks to your long-term health, and that's your physical health, your emotional health, and your mental health as well. Your fourth major risk of ignoring any symptoms of bladder weakness, of any other pelvic floor problems, is that it affects your relationship. So a lot of women start to avoid sexual encounters because they're embarrassed about what's going on down there. But again, it really affects their self-image, and that can have a major effect on mental health. The fifth major risk of ignoring any pelvic floor symptoms at all is that it reduces the amount you move, particularly where you think, if I move more, I might leak. If I move more, that heaviness is going to increase. If I move more, is this going to bulge out of my vagina? And if we're not moving as much as we were before, as much as we want to, both within a day-to-day capacity, but also in terms of exercise, that starts to have a significant impact on our heart health and our bone health. And particularly for women transitioning towards and through menopause, these are major risks to our long-term health. Menopause affects our risk of both bone disease and heart disease. And so it's really important that we have the confidence, the strength as well, to move more within every day, so that we can look after our heart health and our bone health and really take care of ourselves both now, but a long way into the future as well. And again, a quote that one lady has said to me, which I think really sums this up, is she said, "I can't believe now, looking back, how much this stopped me from being me." And I think this is the thing, at the time we're experiencing it, we may kind of tuck those feelings, sensations, and thoughts about what's going on in our pelvic floor away in some drawer in the back of our mind. We may console ourselves with, it's not that important, or, well, everybody has it and I'll sort it out when X, Y, or Z happens. But in the meantime, you're slowly eroding away your self-confidence, your self-image, the amount you move, and that's going to affect your ability to maintain your weight, your how much you achieve in your life, how you feel with your children, your grandchildren, your friends, and a lot more besides. So say it can have really far-reaching effects, not just on your physical health, but also emotional and mental health as well. So let's finish up by looking at 5 things that you can do to start to take action, to alleviate, to support these symptoms within your pelvic floor. So the first one is your pelvic floor exercises. Now, there are apps, and the NHS has an app called Squeezy, which is available for a very low cost. You can get it on your phone and it will take you through a series of pelvic floor exercises. There are lots of pelvic floor toners on the market as well. And again, if you're not sure about buying one, check out my blog on this to see whether they're worth investing the money in. But my first port of call would be always to check in with a female health physio, either asking your GP just to refer you to a female health physio because you've got pelvic floor symptoms that you would like some support with and to understand further. What's more, that female health physio will be able to identify whether your pelvic floor needs strengthening work or whether it needs to relax and release a little bit more. So if your pelvic floor is already held on tight, then strengthening it some more is going to make your symptoms worse. So it's always worth understanding what are the best type of pelvic floor exercises for you. Do check out the Squeezy app through NHS Squeezy on your smartphone just to explore that, but don't see that as the answer in itself. It's one option, and if possible, either by asking your GP to refer you to a female health physio or seeking out a private health physio yourself, get to understand what is going on within your pelvic floor. And this is something that I think every woman should have at least annually, like an MOT, particularly after we've had a baby. But understand there are changes within your pelvic floor as we transition towards menopause. It's not just about those 6 weeks after you've given birth. The second top tip that I would give you to help to manage any pelvic floor symptoms is to deal with constipation. So if you are not having a regular bowel motion, and I'm not talking about going once a week here, if you're not going once every 2, possibly 3 days, if you're having to strain to pass bowel motions at all, then this is something to address through nutrition, through hydration, and I always support both of those factors within all of my core and pelvic floor courses, and I actually have an online nutrition program as well to support with the overall nutrition approach, recognizing that managing your weight will also help with those pelvic floor symptoms. So when we are overweight, that increases the weight load and also the pressure down into the pelvic floor, which can exacerbate or worsen those pelvic floor symptoms. Now that's a very blasé comment, isn't it? Manage your weight or lose weight. That can feel really tricky. So again, it's understanding what will support you, what will help your brain to click with what you need to do. And remember, it's about all of you, from your thoughts down to your toes. So although we're talking about the pelvic floor here, your thoughts around what you're experiencing, about how you feel in your body, about what you need to do to support your health are really, really important here. The fourth tip I would give you is to make sure that you breathe when you move. So I mentioned the fact that it's not just about those pelvic floor muscles. It's about a whole host of things to manage your pelvic floor health. But one key thing is managing the amount of pressure down into that pelvis. And if we're holding our breath to do tasks that we feel are tricky, such as lifting any heavy loads or reaching something onto a high shelf, carrying something up and down the stairs, then that's building up pressure within our abdominal space or cavity that increases pressure down into that pelvic floor. Really simple way to do this, whether you're exercising in the gym or just picking up the washing, is to count when you're going or sing. Just speaking out loud means you have to breathe. So you sort of do away with that breath holding habit if that is relevant to you. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated at all. Just simply count out loud or sing just to make sure that you are breathing when you move to manage pressure down into that pelvic floor. The next one I would say is let go of tension and recognize that even if your pelvic floor needs strengthening, it will also need some release and relaxation work as well. It's a key point to understand that not only are not all pelvic floor issues to do with weakness, but releasing and relaxing is at least as important as strengthening and tightening. So let go of that tension. Are you tensing in your jaw, in your neck at all? Do you hold it in your shoulders? If you're able to let go of all of that tension and breathe through your movement, does that help things to feel better? Does that give you a better connection with your abdominal muscles right through to your pelvic floor muscles and of course your spinal muscles as well? And then the final point, I know I've given you 5, but the big one is to get that health and support for what you're experiencing. Now, I've mentioned talking to your GP. I also mentioned that most of the women who responded to the posts on my social media sites said that when they'd asked their GP, they hadn't got support. They'd felt fobbed off and not listened to. So going to speak to your GP, asking if you can see a female doctor, if that makes you feel more comfortable. Explain your symptoms, have them written down on a sheet of paper before you go in. And if you feel like you're not getting the answers and positive action that you can take to move forward, use the simple line, I would like to be referred to a female health physio, please, so that I can start to address these symptoms further. That's as simple as it is. If you would prefer to see a private health physio, then seek out those that are in your area. Ask for references or ask if they can give you anybody that they've worked with so you can talk to them and get a feel for the way that they work and whether you're going to feel comfortable with that. So good female health physio will put you completely at ease throughout the appointment. And again, if you'd like to know what happens during a female health physio appointment, then I will link my blog below so that you can go and check that out as well. You can also seek support from coaches such as myself. So I'm not a female health physio and I will always refer out where I feel that is required. When working with any woman, I do a really deep screening process. So that's a really long, detailed questionnaire, which we then go through and I may ask even more questions on so that I get an appreciation of what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, for us to understand the best way to support you going forwards. So you can get in touch simply by using the contact details below. You can sign up for any one of my freebies to support with your pelvic floor symptoms, or as I say, talk to your doctor and use that line that you are ready to take action for your pelvic floor symptoms.